A 10-year-old girl's desperate fight to save her mom leads to an unexpected moment that no one saw coming when Elon Musk steps out of his Tesla and turns her lemonade stand into a story the world will never forget. Mia's hands gripped the sides of a sun-faded lemonade stand, her tiny fingers brushing over the peeling paint as she adjusted the sign. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Lemonade for Mom's chemo. The bold letters read, each one scrawled in her own crooked handwriting. She tugged at her messy ponytail, glancing at the plastic jar in front of her. A handful of coins sparkled under the afternoon sun, but it wasn't even close to what they needed. Mia was only 10, but life had made her grow up fast. Her mom, Jennifer, had always been her rock, cooking pancakes shaped like hearts, cheering the loudest at soccer games, and tucking her in with bedtime stories. But all that had changed 6 months ago when Jennifer was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The treatments were brutal, and so were the bills. Their insurance barely scratched the surface, and her dad, a delivery driver, worked double shifts just to keep them afloat. Mia couldn't bear to see her mom so tired, so thin, so unlike herself. She knew she couldn't fix everything, but she had to do something. That's how the lemonade stand came to life. A small, defiant act of love on the corner of Cedar Avenue in Fremont, California. The street was busy, cars whizzing past, and neighbors walking their dogs. Some stopped to buy a cup, dropping a few dollars into the jar with kind smiles and words of encouragement. Others walked by without a second glance. Mia didn't blame them. Life was busy, and not everyone noticed the quiet battles being fought around them. But Mia held on to hope. Every coin counted. Every dollar brought them closer to another chemo session, another day with her mom. She didn't know how long she could keep this up, but she'd stand there every day if she had to. Maybe tomorrow will be better, she thought, wiping the sweat from her brow as the California sun dipped lower in the sky. Mornings were the hardest for Mia. While other kids were packing their school bags and trading jokes at the bus stop, she was busy squeezing lemons in their tiny kitchen. The smell of citrus clung to her hands as she carefully mixed the ingredients. Just enough sugar, a touch of honey, and ice cubes to keep it refreshing. Her dad had insisted on helping her set up the stand before heading to work, but Mia wanted to do most of it herself. This wasn't just a lemonade stand. It was her mission. Each day felt like a battle. By noon, the street grew livelier with joggers and moms pushing strollers passing by. Mia waved at everyone, offering her brightest smile, though she sometimes felt like collapsing under the weight of it all. Some stopped and bought a cup, dropping coins or dollar bills into her jar. One woman, Miss Evelyn, became a regular. She'd always stop by with her fluffy golden retriever and hand Mia a $5 bill, even when she didn't take a drink. "For your mom, sweetheart," she'd say, her voice warm but tinged with pity. Mia hated the pity, but she was grateful for the help. Still, there were days when the jar barely filled. She'd watch people breeze past her stand, earbuds in, eyes glued to their phones. On those days, the frustration bubbled inside her like a shaken soda can. "Why doesn't anyone care?" she whispered one afternoon, kicking a stray pebble near her stand. Her mom always told her to look for the good in people, but sometimes it felt impossible. One particular Saturday, Mia was hit with a new blow. A group of older kids from her neighborhood strolled by, snickering. "Is that all you made? What's that, like $10? One boy jeered, pointing at her jar. His friends laughed, their voices grating. Mia's cheeks burned, but she didn't respond. She wanted to scream at them, to tell them how much this meant to her. But instead, she turned her back and focused on pouring another cup of lemonade for an elderly man who just approached. "Keep it up, kid," the man said, dropping a few quarters into the jar. "Your mom's lucky to have you." The words stung, not because they weren't kind, but because Mia felt like she wasn't doing enough. The coins rattled in the jar, and all she could think about was how far they still had to go. As the sun began to set, Mia started packing up for the day. Her arms ached from carrying the heavy jar of coins back home. It was always the same routine, counting the money at the kitchen table while her mom smiled weakly, pretending to be more impressed than she really was. But Mia could see through her mom's brave face. "Maybe tomorrow," Mia whispered to herself again, her heart heavy. Little did she know tomorrow would change everything. The next day started like any other. Mia was back at her usual spot on Cedar Avenue, her sign propped up against the rickety stand. The morning rush came and went, with a few customers stopping by, mostly regulars like Miss Evelyn. She felt a small glimmer of hope when a young couple handed her a $10 bill. But by mid-afternoon, the crowd had thinned. Mia slumped into her foldable chair, fanning herself with an old magazine. The California sun was merciless that day, and the jar in front of her still looked far too empty. She stared at the cars speeding past, wishing just one person would stop and care enough to make a difference. That's when she heard it, a sleek hum that stood out from the usual noise of the street. Mia looked up and saw a futuristic electric car pulling over to the curb. It wasn't just any car. It was a Tesla. Even Mia, at 10 years old, recognized the iconic design. The door opened, and out stepped a man in a plain white t-shirt and jeans. His hair was slightly tousled, and he wore sunglasses that he casually slipped into his pocket. He looked like any other guy, but there was something about the way he carried himself that made people stop and stare. Mia squinted, her heart racing as he walked toward her stand. The closer he got, the more she began to recognize his face. She had seen him before on TV in news articles her dad read at the table. It was Elon Musk. She froze, gripping the edge of her lemonade stand as her mind raced. Why would he stop here? She glanced at her jar, embarrassed by how little money she'd managed to collect that day. But Musk didn't seem to notice her hesitation. "Hi there," he said, his voice calm but curious. "Lemonade for chemo? Huh? What's your story?" The question caught her off guard. For a moment, Mia didn't know what to say. Her lips quivered, but then she looked into his eyes, kind yet piercing, and something in her decided to speak up. "My mom," she began, her voice trembling. "She's really sick, and we can't afford the treatments." She pointed at her jar. "I thought maybe I could help." Musk tilted his head slightly, taking in the stand, the sign, and the tired look in Mia's eyes. A small crowd had begun to gather, drawn by the sight of the world-famous entrepreneur standing at a shabby lemonade stand. Whispered conversations buzzed among the onlookers. "Wow," Musk said, his tone soft. "That's a lot for someone your age to take on." He reached into his pocket, pulling out his wallet, but instead of handing her a bill, he paused, as though an idea had just struck him. Mia watched nervously, unsure of what he was thinking. Whatever it was, it would be far more than she ever expected. The crowd grew thicker as Elon Musk crouched slightly to meet Mia at eye level. His curiosity was genuine, and Mia could feel it. For the first time in a while, she didn't sense pity. Instead, it felt like he truly wanted to understand. "So, what's your mom's name?" he asked. "Jennifer," Mia replied softly. "She's the strongest person I know, but the treatments are really hard on her, and they cost so much. My dad works all the time, but we're still behind." Musk nodded, his eyes scanning the stand again. The weathered wood, the jar of coins, the sign written in uneven letters. It all painted a picture far more vivid than words. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked, his voice calm but with a hint of amazement. Mia hesitated before answering. 2 months. I come out here almost every day after school and weekends too. We need a lot of money." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. Someone in the crowd gasped quietly, as though they were just now realizing the depth of her determination. Musk leaned against the stand, folding his arms. You know, you could be doing anything else right now, playing, hanging out with friends, but you chose to be here. That's impressive. Mia shrugged, looking down at her jar. I just want her to get better. I'd do anything for that. Musk was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Then he straightened up and looked around at the crowd. You're all hearing this, right? He said, his voice suddenly louder. This kid is out here fighting for her mom, doing what most adults wouldn't even think of doing. That's something special. The onlookers murmured in agreement, some pulling out their wallets to drop money into Mia's jar. She watched as the coins and bills piled up, but her focus stayed on Musk. Tell you what, he said, his tone shifting to something almost playful. How about I buy some lemonade? Mia blinked, startled. You want a cup? Of course, Musk said with a grin. But I've got a condition. She tilted her head, curious. What kind of condition? I want it to be the best lemonade you've ever made, he replied. Deal. A small smile broke across Mia's face. She grabbed a cup, her hands trembling slightly, and poured the lemonade carefully, making sure it was just right. She handed it to Musk, who took a sip and exaggerated a satisfied sigh. Perfect, he declared, making the crowd chuckle. Then, without missing a beat, he turned back to Mia. Now, let's talk about how I can really help. Mia's breath caught in her throat. Whatever he was planning, it was about to change everything. Elon Musk set the lemonade cup down on the rickety stand and pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. The crowd leaned in, trying to catch a glimpse of what he was doing, but his expression remained unreadable. All right, Musk said, slipping the phone back into his pocket. He looked at Mia with a faint smile. First things first, I'm covering your mom's medical bills. All of them. The words hit Mia like a wave. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. The crowd gasped collectively, a mix of disbelief and awe rippling through the small gathering. You're paying for it? Mia stammered, clutching the edge of the stand as though it might steady her. Musk nodded. Every single bill. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, her tiny frame shaking as the weight of his words sank in. Thank you, she whispered, her voice cracking. But Musk wasn't done. He turned to the crowd, his voice carrying with a newfound energy. This isn't just about one family. There are so many people out there just like Mia's mom who are fighting battles like this. What if we all did something about it? The crowd buzzed with murmurs of agreement, some wiping tears from their eyes. Musk pointed to Mia's stand. This lemonade stand is a symbol of resilience, love, and determination. So here's the plan. I'm matching every donation made here today, and I'll make sure the funds go toward cancer research and helping families in need. The crowd erupted in applause, the energy electric. People began reaching for their wallets, handing over not just dollars but 20s, 50s, and even hundreds. The jar overflowed so quickly that Mia had to grab a second one. A local news crew happened to be driving by and noticed the commotion. Within minutes, cameras were rolling, capturing the surreal scene of one of the world's most influential figures standing beside a 10-year-old girl at her lemonade stand. As more people stopped by, the story began to spread. Social media exploded with posts and live streams, and within an hour, Mia's lemonade stand had gone viral. Musk crouched down again, looking at Mia. You did this, he said softly. Your bravery started something much bigger than just a lemonade stand. Don't ever forget that. Mia sniffled, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I just wanted to help my mom, she said, her voice small but filled with sincerity. And you did, Musk replied, his tone warm. More than you know. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Mia realized her life, and her mother's, had just been changed forever. The crowd eventually began to thin as the day wore on, but the moment lingered in Mia's heart like a warm glow. She stood there, staring at the jar overflowing with bills and coins, still trying to process everything that had happened. For months, she had carried this weight alone, trying to shoulder the impossible. And now, in just one afternoon, her world had shifted. Elon Musk stayed a while longer, helping her stack the empty lemonade cups and chatting with those who stopped by. Before he left, he knelt down to meet Mia's gaze one last time. Mia, you've reminded everyone here what it means to care about something bigger than yourself, he said. Don't ever stop being that person, okay? Mia nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I won't. Thank you for everything. Musk smiled, but his expression carried a sense of humility. Sometimes, we're in the right place at the right time, but it's what we do in those moments that counts. He gave her a quick wave and climbed back into his Tesla. As the car pulled away, Mia watched until it disappeared down the road, the reality of the day finally sinking in. When Mia got home that evening, her father's jaw dropped at the sight of the jar stuffed with donations, far beyond what they had ever imagined. Her mom, frail but smiling, reached out to hug her tightly. For the first time in months, the heavy air in their home felt lighter, filled with hope instead of dread. The story of Mia's lemonade stand quickly spread across the country. News outlets, social media, and even celebrities shared the tale of the little girl who had inspired one of the world's richest men to make a difference. Donations poured in, not just for Mia's family but for cancer research initiatives Musk had promised to support. But the biggest change came within Mia herself. She saw firsthand how one small act, one stand on a busy street, could ripple outward and touch lives she'd never even meet. In a video interview weeks later, she sat beside her mom, who was now undergoing the treatments they'd once feared they couldn't afford. When asked what she had learned, Mia smiled shyly and said, I guess you're never too small to do something big. Sometimes it takes just one person to make the world a little better. What will you do today to help someone in need? Share this story to inspire others. And remember, kindness can be contagious.